The alarm bells rang through the underground laboratory on Kepler Prime. Red lights flashed across the metal walls as scientists rushed between computer screens and strange machines. Dr. Zathara pressed her six-fingered hands against the control panel, her blue skin turning pale with fear. "How long do we have?" she asked the communication officer. "The Vorthic fleet will reach our outer defenses in 12 hours, came the reply. "Our shields won't hold for more than 6. Dr. Zathara looked around the laboratory at her team of scientists. They were the best minds from across the galaxy, but even they knew the truth. The Vorthic Empire had been unstoppable for 300 years. Every world they attacked surrendered within days. The crystalline warriors were too strong, too fast, and too many. "Then we have no choice," she said quietly. "We must try the summoning." The other scientists gathered around the large circular platform in the center of the room. Strange symbols were carved into the metal floor, and thick cables ran from the platform to massive computers that hummed with power. This was their last hope, an ancient technology that could reach across dimensions and bring warriors from other worlds. "The calculations are complete," said Dr. Vextai, a tall creature with gray skin and large black eyes. "We can summon beings from Dimension 7 Alpha. The computer says they are peaceful but know how to fight. They come from a world with low gravity and gentle weather." "Perfect," Dr. Zathara nodded. "We need warriors who understand conflict, but come from a civilized world. They will help us make peace with the Vorthek." She began typing commands into the computer. Energy started to flow through the cables, and the symbols on the floor began to glow with blue light. The air above the platform shimmered like water. "Portal opening in 10 seconds, announced the computer in its calm voice. 987 ... Suddenly, warning lights flashed across all the screens. The computer's voice changed, becoming urgent and loud. "Error detected. Signal interference. Targeting system failure. New coordinates locked. Warning, source dimension classified as Deathworld. Class 12, abort summoning immediately." Dr. Zathara's hands flew over the controls, but it was too late. The portal was already forming, and the energy was too powerful to stop. A bright hole opened in the air above the platform, and strange sounds came through, the roar of engines, the sound of wind, and something that might have been shouting. "Shut it down!" Dr. Vextai yelled. "I can't. The portal is stable. Something is coming through." The first figure dropped through the portal and landed hard on the platform. He was tall and broad, wearing strange green clothing and carrying a black weapon. A round helmet covered his head, and his face was painted with dark colors. He rolled to one side as he landed, bringing his weapon up to point at the shocked scientists. "Contact unknown hostiles," he shouted in a deep voice. More figures dropped through the portal. They moved fast and smooth, spreading out across the platform and pointing their weapons in different directions. Dr. Zathara counted 24. Beings before the portal finally closed with a loud crack. The beings were unlike anything the scientists had ever seen. They were tall and muscular, with thick bones and strong jaws. Their eyes moved constantly, checking every corner of the room. They held their weapons like they knew how to use them very well. "Clear left," called one of them, a female with long hair tied back. "Clear right," replied another. "Room secure," announced the first one who had come through. He seemed to be their leader. Dr. Zathara stepped forward slowly, her hands raised to show she meant no harm. "Welcome, warriors from across the dimensions. I am Dr. Zathara. We have summoned you to help us fight the Vorthek Empire." The leader looked at her for a long moment. His eyes were a bright blue color, and they seemed to take in everything at once. "Ma'am, I'm Staff Sergeant Jake Morrison, United States Army, 82nd Airborne Division. We were conducting a training exercise when when this happened." He gestured at the portal device. "You speak our language?" Dr. Vextai said in wonder. "The translation device is working," Dr. Zathara explained. "It allows us to understand each other." A woman stepped forward. She was shorter than Jake, but moved with the same deadly grace. "Captain Lisa Rodriguez, United States Marine Corps, Sergeant Morrison, what's our situation?" Jake looked around the room again. Unknown, ma'am. We appear to be in some kind of underground facility. No immediate threats, but these people claim they summoned us to fight in a war. Another man joined them. He was lean and moved very quietly. Lieutenant Commander Ryan Hayes, United States Navy. Ma'am, if I may ask, what exactly are we dealing with here? Dr. Zethara felt a chill run down her spine as she looked at these beings. They were nothing like what the computer had predicted. These were not peaceful scholars who knew a little about conflict. These were warriors, pure and simple. They stood like they expected attack at any moment. They held weapons that looked simple but deadly. And their eyes held a coldness that spoke of experience with violence. The Vorthek, she began, her voice shaking slightly. They are crystalline beings, very strong. They have conquered most of the galaxy. We hope to summon warriors who could help. U.S. negotiate with them. Negotiate? Asked a fourth human, a man with sergeant stripes on his uniform. Ma'am, you don't summon soldiers to negotiate, you summon soldiers to fight. But surely you come from a peaceful world, Dr. Vextai said. Hopefully. Your people must prefer talking to fighting. Jake Morrison and Lisa Rodriguez exchanged a look. Then Jake spoke carefully. Doctor, what exactly did your computer tell you about our world? Dr. Zethara checked her readings. Her face grew pale as she read. It says your world is classified as a death world, Class 12, the highest danger rating in our system. Class 12? Dr. Vextai whispered. That's impossible. No intelligent species can evolve on a Class 12 world. What makes a world Class 12? Captain Rodriguez asked. Dr. Zethara's voice was barely a whisper. A world where everything is trying to kill everything else. Where the weather can kill you. Where the animals hunt in packs. Where the plants are poisonous. Where the very air and water can be deadly. A world where only the strongest, fastest, and smartest survive. Lieutenant Commander Hayes grinned, and it was not a friendly expression. Lady, you just described Earth on a good day. The alien scientists stared at the humans in growing horror. They had tried to summon peaceful warriors to help them negotiate with an unbeatable enemy. Instead, they had summoned apex predators. From a world that made nightmares seem tame. Jake Morrison slung his rifle over his shoulder and stepped forward. Doctor, you said these Vorthak have conquered most of the galaxy? How long until they get here? 6 hours until they break through our defenses, Dr. Zethara replied weakly. Jake nodded and turned to his team. All right, people. We've got 6 hours to learn about the enemy, understand their capabilities, and figure out how to kill them. Rodriguez, I want you to review their battle tactics. Hayes, check out their technology. Turner, assess their defensive positions. Roger that, came the replies. Dr. Zethara watched as the humans immediately began working with calm efficiency. They asked sharp questions, studied the alien technology with interest, and discussed strategies she couldn't follow. They didn't seem afraid or even surprised by the situation. Excuse me, she said quietly to Jake. Are you not worried about fighting an enemy that has never been defeated? Jake looked at her with those cold blue eyes. Ma'am, we come from a world where everything tries to kill us from the day we're born. We've been fighting wars since before we invented writing. We fought each other, our environment, wild animals, diseases, and natural disasters. We've survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and asteroid impacts. He paused and looked around the laboratory. Your Vorthek might be tough, but they've never fought humans before. They've never fought anyone who grew up on a death world. They're about to learn what real war looks like. Dr. Zethara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. She realized with growing horror that she had made a terrible mistake. She had tried to summon saviors, but instead she had brought something far more dangerous than the Vorthek. She had summoned Deathworlders. And now it was too late to send them back. Dr. Zethara led the humans through the underground halls of the research facility. The aliens they passed in the corridors stopped and stared at the strange warriors from another world. Some of the younger scientists backed away in fear when They saw the weapons and the hard expressions on the humans' faces. "This is our main briefing room," Dr. Zethara said as they entered a large chamber. The walls were covered with screens showing star maps and battle reports. "We can show you everything we know about the Vorthic Empire." Jake Morrison looked around the room and nodded. "Good, we need to understand what we're up against." He turned to his team. "Rodriguez, Hayes, Turner, take notes. We need to know their strengths, weaknesses, tactics, and technology." Dr. Vextai stepped forward with a datapad in his hands. The Vorthak first appeared 300 years ago from the Galactic core. They are crystalline beings, approximately 3 meters tall. Their bodies are harder than our strongest metals. "How hard?" Captain Rodriguez asked. "Our plasma weapons cannot damage them. Energy shields bounce off their skin. They seem to be completely invulnerable to all forms of attack." "Lieutenant Commander." Hayes raised his hand. "What about physical attacks? Kinetic weapons?" Dr. Vextai looked confused. "I do not understand. What are kinetic weapons?" The humans exchanged glances. Sergeant Turner spoke up. "You know, bullets? Projectiles. Things that hit hard and fast." "We do not use such primitive methods," Dr. Zethara said with a slight tone of superiority. "Galactic warfare is conducted with energy weapons, plasma beams, and shield technology. We have evolved beyond throwing rocks at our enemies." Jake Morrison's expression didn't change, but Captain Rodriguez had to hide a smile. "Doctor, could you show us footage of a battle with the Vorthak?" Dr. Zethara activated the main screen. A 3-dimensional image appeared showing a space battle. The human soldiers watched as sleek alien ships approached massive crystalline vessels. The alien ships fired bright beams of energy that splashed harmlessly against the Vorthak hulls. "This is the Battle of Proxima Station," Dr. Vextai explained. "Our most advanced fleet engaged a Vorthak raiding force." The humans watched in growing amazement as the battle unfolded. The alien ships moved in perfect formations, firing their weapons in synchronized patterns. When the Vorthak ships approached, the alien commander sent a message requesting formal surrender terms. "Wait," Turner said. "Did that guy just ask the enemy how they wanted to surrender?" "It is proper military protocol," Dr. Zethara explained. Before battle, commanders discuss terms of engagement and conditions of surrender. This prevents unnecessary destruction. Hayes shook his head. "Lady, that's not how war works. You don't give the enemy time to think about it," the footage continued. The Vorthak ships ignored the surrender request and fired crystalline projectiles that tore through the alien shields like paper. Within minutes, the entire alien fleet was destroyed or retreating. "Our shields were useless," Dr. Vextai said sadly. "Their weapons cut through our defenses as if they were not there." "What kind of casualties did you take?" Jake asked. 17. Ships lost approximately 8,000 crew members. And the Vorthak? They suffered no losses, they never do. Captain Rodriguez leaned forward. "Doctor, in 300 years of war, have you ever killed a single Vorthak?" Dr. Zethara's blue skin darkened with embarrassment. We have damaged their ships. Sometimes we force them to retreat for repairs." "But you've never actually killed one of them?" "No, they are immortal. When damaged, they simply regenerate," Turner whistled low. "So in 300 years, you've never figured out how to kill the enemy?" "They cannot be killed," Dr. Vextai protested. "We have tried everything. Plasma weapons, fusion bombs, quantum disruptors. Nothing works." Jake stood up and walked to the display. "Show me a close-up of a Vorthak warrior." The screen changed to show a detailed image of a crystalline being. It was tall and angular, with sharp edges and a body that looked like it was made of living glass. Its limbs were long and powerful, and its head was a geometric shape with glowing points for eyes. "Impressive," Jake said quietly. "What's their body composition?" "Silicon-based crystal matrix," Dr. Zethara read from her notes. "Extremely dense, capable of self-repair. They can regenerate from any damage within hours." "Any damage?" Hayes asked. "Yes, we have seen them regrow entire limbs." Some have survived direct hits from our most powerful weapons. Jake nodded thoughtfully. What happens if you break them into very small pieces? I do not understand the question. If you shatter the crystal completely, turn it into dust, can they regenerate from that? Dr. Zathara paused. We never achieve such destruction. Our weapons are not capable of that level of damage. Captain Rodriguez stood up. Doctor, do you have any kinetic weapons at all? Anything that throws solid objects? We have construction tools, magnetic accelerators for moving materials. But these are not weapons. Could you modify them? Dr. Vextai looked confused. Why would we want to throw construction materials at the enemy? Turner grinned. Because sometimes the old ways are the best ways. Jake walked back to the center of the room. Doctor, I need you to understand something. You've been fighting this war like it's a game. You follow rules, you ask for surrender, you use only approved weapons. But the Vorthek aren't playing by your rules. But there are laws of war, Dr. Zathara protested. Civilized beings do not simply attack without warning. The Vorthek have been attacking you for 300 years, Hayes pointed out. How's that civilization working out? Jake activated his radio. This is Morrison. I need to speak with the rest of the team. The other 20 humans entered the briefing room. They had been exploring the facility and talking to the alien soldiers. From their expressions, Jake could tell they had learned disturbing things. Report, Jake ordered. A woman with corporal stripes spoke first. Sir, their military training is basically non-existent. They practice ceremonial formations and target shooting, but they've never trained for actual combat. Their weapons are designed to disable, not kill, added another soldier. Most of their equipment is for show. And they're soldiers, said a third. They surrender as soon as they're outnumbered or outgunned. They think it's honorable? Jake nodded grimly. How many worlds have fallen to the Vorthek? Dr. Zathara checked her data. Approximately 800 worlds. 2 trillion sentient beings. And in all that time, you never thought to change your tactics. We are civilized beings, Dr. Vextai said stiffly. We do not engage in barbaric warfare. Captain Rodriguez laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Doctor, you've lost 2 trillion people because you're too civilized to fight dirty. That's not civilization, that's suicide. Jake walked to the star map on the wall. Show me the Vorthek fleet positions. The map highlighted several red dots approaching their location. 12 ships, Dr. Zathara said. Approximately 3,000 warriors. And your defenses? We have energy shields and automated defense platforms. They should hold for 6 hours, Hayes studied the tactical display. What about their landing forces? How do they usually attack? Planets? They teleport directly to the command centers in major cities. They announce the conquest and demand surrender. Most worlds comply immediately. Turner shook his head. They just beam down and ask you to give up? It is efficient, Dr. Zathara said defensively. Why fight when the outcome is already decided? Jake turned to face the alien scientists. Doctor, I need you to understand something very important. We come from a world where nothing is ever decided until it's over. We fought wars against impossible odds and won. We've been outnumbered, outgunned, and surrounded, and we've still found ways to win. But the Vorthek are invincible, Doctor. Vextai whispered. No, Jake said firmly. They're just fighting opponents who give up too easily. They've never faced humans before. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. Doctor, do you want to save your people? Of course. Then you need to stop fighting like civilized beings and start fighting like survivors. We're going to teach you how to win this war, but you're not going to like our methods. Dr. Zathara looked around at the humans. Their faces were hard and determined. These were not the peaceful warriors she had hoped to summon. These were predators from a world where only the strongest survived. What do you need? She asked quietly. Jake smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. Raw materials, manufacturing equipment, and 6 hours. We're going to show these crystal bugs what happens when you pick a fight with Deathworlders. The alarms began ringing again. The Vorthek fleet had arrived. The command center filled with panic as the Vorthek ships appeared on the sensors. 12 massive crystalline vessels hung in space above Kepler Prime like deadly jewels. Each ship was the size of a city, covered in sharp spikes and glowing with internal energy. "They're charging their teleportation systems," reported the sensor officer, his voice shaking. "Standard invasion protocol? They'll beam down to the main command center in 15 minutes. Dr. Zethara turned to Jake Morrison with desperate eyes. "Sergeant, we should prepare the surrender broadcast. Perhaps we can negotiate terms that will save some lives." Jake didn't look up from the tactical display he was studying. "Doctor, how many Vorthek usually beam down for a conquest?" 12 warriors, Dr. Vextai answered. "It's always 12. They consider it sufficient for any world." Captain Rodriguez looked at Lieutenant Commander Hayes. 12? That's it? "They've never needed more," Dr. Zethara said quietly. 12 Vorthek warriors can destroy an entire army. Jake nodded slowly. "And they always beam directly to the command center?" "Yes, they appear, announce the conquest, and demand surrender. The battle is usually over in minutes." "Good," Jake said. He turned to his team. "People, we have 15 minutes to set up a welcoming party. Rodriguez, I want your Marines covering the exits. Hayes, put your SEALs in the ventilation system. Turner, get your Rangers positioned around the teleportation point." "Sir," Sergeant Turner said, "what about the alien personnel?" Jake looked around the command center. Dozens of alien scientists and technicians were at their stations, some trembling with fear. "Doctor, I need you to evacuate all non-essential personnel. Anyone who doesn't need to be here should leave now." "But this is the command center," Dr. Zethara protested. "We must be here to coordinate the surrender." "Doctor, there isn't going to be a surrender. There's going to be a fight. And I don't want any civilians caught in the crossfire." Dr. Vextai stepped forward. "You cannot fight 12 Vorthek warriors. It's impossible. They are invincible." Hayes checked his weapon and smiled grimly. "Sir, we fought in worse odds." "Remember Fallujah?" "Different war, same principle," Jake replied. "Turner, what's our ammunition situation?" "Each man has 200 rounds of standard NATO, plus grenades and sidearms. Should be enough for 12 targets." Dr. Zethara stared at them in confusion. "NATO? What is NATO?" "It's the type of ammunition we use," Captain Rodriguez explained. "Standard military rounds. Nothing fancy." "But they won't work against crystalline armor," Dr. Vextai said desperately. "Your primitive projectiles cannot penetrate their bodies." Jake Morrison had been in combat for 15 years. He had fought in Iraq, Afghanistan, and 3 other conflicts that officially didn't exist. He had seen armor that was supposed to be bulletproof, enemies that were supposed to be unbeatable, and situations that were supposed to be hopeless. "Doctor," he said calmly, "everything can be broken if you hit it hard enough." The evacuation began immediately. Alien personnel rushed out of the command center, leaving only the essential staff and the human soldiers. Jake's team moved with practiced efficiency, taking positions around the large circular platform where the Vorthek would appear. 10 minutes until teleportation," announced the sensor officer. Jake activated his radio. "All units, this is Morrison. We have 12 targets incoming. Rules of engagement are simple. Anything that isn't human or friendly alien gets shot. No warning shots, no surrender demands. We hit them hard and fast." "Copy that, Sergeant," came the replies. Dr. Zethara watched the humans prepare for battle. They moved like a machine, each person knowing exactly what to do. They checked their weapons, adjusted their positions, and waited with the patience of experienced hunters. 5 minutes to teleportation. Jake knelt behind a control console and aimed his rifle at the platform. Around the room, 23 other humans did the same. The alien technicians who remained at their stations looked terrified. "Sergeant Morrison," Dr. Zethara whispered, "what if you're wrong? What if your weapons don't work?" Jake's blue eyes never left the platform. "Doctor, I've been wrong before, but I've also been right when everyone else was wrong. Today we find out which one this is." 2 minutes to teleportation. The air above the platform began to shimmer. Energy crackled and danced as the Vortex ships prepared to send their warriors. The humans tensed, fingers on triggers, eyes focused on the target area. 1 minute to teleportation. Jake spoke quietly into his radio. Remember, these things are supposed to be invincible. They've never been hurt, never been challenged. They're going to be overconfident. Use that against them. 30 seconds. The shimmer above the platform grew brighter. The air began to make a high-pitched whining sound. Dr. Zethara held her breath. Teleportation in progress. 12 pillars of light appeared on the platform. The light grew brighter and brighter until it was painful to look at. Then suddenly, the light vanished. 12 Vorthic warriors stood on the platform. They were even more impressive in person than in the recordings. Each one was 3 meters tall, with bodies that looked like living crystal. They moved with fluid grace, their faceted surfaces catching the light of the command center. Their eyes glowed with internal fire. The lead Vorthic stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was like breaking glass. I am War Leader Zixthek of the Vorthic Empire. This world is now property of the Eternal Crystals. You will surrender immediately or face destruction. The alien technicians began to raise their hands in surrender. Dr. Zethara started to step forward with the surrender broadcast. Jake. Morrison shot the war leader 3 times in the chest. The bullet struck the crystalline body with sharp cracking sounds. For a moment, nothing happened. The Vorthak warriors stood frozen, staring at their leader in disbelief. Then War Leader Zixthek looked down at his chest. 3 small holes had appeared in his crystal body. Cracks spread outward from each hole like spider webs. The internal glow began to flicker. Impossible, the War Leader whispered. Then he shattered. The great crystalline body broke apart like glass, pieces falling to the floor with musical chimes. The other Vorthak warriors stared in shock. Nothing had ever hurt them before. Nothing had ever broken their invincible bodies. Jake didn't give them time to think. Fire! 24 automatic weapons opened up at once. The command center filled with the sound of gunfire as hundreds of bullets struck the remaining Vorthic warriors. The crystalline beings tried to move, tried to fight back, but they were too surprised and too slow. One by one, they shattered. Captain Rodriguez put a 3-round burst into a Vorthak that was trying to raise some kind of energy weapon. The creature's arm broke off. Then its torso cracked and fell apart. Lieutenant Commander Hayes shot another Vorthak in the head. The crystalline skull exploded like a light bulb, sending glowing fragments across the room. Sergeant Turner's target tried to teleport away, but the energy discharge was interrupted when bullets shattered its body. It disappeared in a shower of crystal dust. The entire battle lasted less than 30 seconds. When the shooting stopped, 12 piles of glittering debris covered the platform. The great invincible Vorthic warriors had been reduced to broken glass. The command center was completely silent except for the sound of empty shell casings rolling across the floor. Dr. Zathara stared at the wreckage in complete shock. They're dead. Yes, ma'am, Jake said, reloading his weapon. Turns out they're not so invincible after all? Dr. Vextai stepped forward carefully, looking at the crystal fragments. But how? Our weapons could never damage them. Hayes picked up a piece of broken crystal and examined it. Your weapons are designed to heat things up or push them around. Our weapons are designed to break things into small pieces. But they could regenerate from any damage, Dr. Zathara protested. Turner kicked at a pile of crystal dust. Hard to regenerate when you're in 1,000 pieces smaller than sand. The sensor officer suddenly looked up from his station. Sergeant Morrison, the Vorthak ships are requesting communication. They want to know what happened to their warriors. Jake looked at the broken remains of the invincible enemy. Tell them their warriors are indisposed. Then ask them if they want to send more. Captain Rodriguez grinned. Sir, I think we just changed the rules of galactic warfare, Jake nodded. Doctor, I need you to contact every world in the Confederation. Tell them the Vorthak can be killed. Tell them how we did it. And tell them the humans are ready to teach them how to fight back. Dr. Zethara looked at the crystal fragments that had once been the galaxy's most feared warriors. For the first time in 300 years, she felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The Vortex ships hanging above Kepler Prime had gone completely silent. For 20 minutes, there had been no communication, no movement, no response to anything the aliens tried to say to them. The massive crystalline vessels just floated in. Space like confused giants. Jake Morrison stood in the command center studying the tactical displays. The crystal fragments from the dead Vorthic warriors had been swept away, but the memory of their easy destruction still filled the room. Dr. Zethara and her team worked frantically at their computers, trying to understand what had just happened. "Sergeant," Captain Rodriguez said as she approached, "the Vorthic fleet is moving. Looks like they're repositioning." Jake nodded, expected. "They're probably trying to figure out what went wrong with their standard plan." Dr. Vextai looked up. From his station, "The Confederation Command wants a full report. They don't believe that 12 Vorthak warriors are dead." "Send them the video footage," Jake replied, "and tell them to prepare for a real war. The Vorthak aren't going to keep using their old tactics after this." Lieutenant Commander Hayes entered the command center carrying a strange crystalline device. "Sir, we found this in the debris. Looks like some kind of communication equipment." Dr. Zethara examined the device carefully. "It's a quantum transmitter. The Vorthak use these to coordinate with their fleets." She connected it to the main computer system. "I can try to intercept their communications." "Do it," Jake ordered. The speakers crackled with static. Then, filled with sounds like breaking glass and ringing bells, Dr. Zethara worked on the translation system until words began to form. Impossible. Warriors destroyed. Known weapon types. Request immediate reinforcements. Turner observed. "How much backup?" Jake asked. Dr. Zethara continued listening. "They're requesting a full battle fleet, 300 ships, 50,000 warriors." The alien technicians in the command center went pale. Dr. Vextai's hands shook as he checked his readings. 50,000 Vorthek warriors? They've never sent more than a few dozen to conquer an entire star system. Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking, "Doctor, how long will it take them to get reinforcements?" "At least 3 days, possibly a week. The nearest Vorthak fleet is several light years away." "Good, that gives us time to prepare." Jake activated his radio. "All units report to the briefing room. We need to plan for a real battle." The humans gathered in the large briefing room along with the senior alien staff. Jake stood in front of the tactical display showing the Tau Centauri system where Kepler Prime was located. "People, we just proved that the Vorthak can be killed. But 12 warriors are nothing compared to what's coming. We need to think bigger." Captain Rodriguez pointed at the display. "Sir, what are our assets? What do we have to work with?" Dr. Zethara activated several screens. "The Confederation has 47 ships in this system. We also have orbital defense platforms around each planet." Hayes studied the ship specifications. "These are all energy-based weapons. Plasma cannons, particle beams, shield generators. Nothing kinetic." "We don't use kinetic weapons," Dr. Vextai said again. "They are primitive." Sergeant Turner grinned. "Doctor, those primitive weapons just killed 12 invincible warriors. Maybe it's time to get primitive." Jake walked to the display showing the orbital defenses. "Doctor, these platforms, can they be modified?" "What do you mean?" "Can you remove the plasma cannons and replace them with something else?" Dr. Zethara looked confused. "I suppose so. But what would we replace them with? Mass drivers, magnetic railguns, kinetic kill systems?" Jake turned to face the alien scientists. "Doctor, show me your manufacturing capabilities." The display changed to show massive industrial complexes on Kepler Prime and the other planets in the system. Factories, shipyards, and mining operations. Covered entire continents. "Impressive," Hayes said. "What kind of materials do you have available?" "Everything," Dr. Zethara replied proudly. "We can manufacture any alloy, any compound, any structure needed. Tungsten? Of course. Depleted. Uranium? Yes, though we don't understand why you would want radioactive materials. Jake smiled. Because they're very dense and very hard. Perfect for kinetic weapons. Over the next 6 hours, the humans worked with the alien engineers to design new weapons systems. They started with the orbital defense platforms, removing the energy weapons and installing magnetic accelerators that could fire solid tungsten rods at incredible speeds. The projectiles will impact at nearly 10% of light speed, Dr. Zathar explained as they reviewed the designs. The kinetic energy will be enormous. How enormous? Turner asked. Each rod will hit with the force of a small nuclear weapon. But there will be no radiation, no energy signature that Vorthak shields can deflect. Captain Rodriguez studied the targeting systems. Can we make them more accurate? We can use quantum targeting, Dr. Vextai said. Perfect precision at any range. The manufacturing began immediately. Across the system, factories retooled their production lines to create kinetic weapons instead of energy systems. The aliens worked with an efficiency that impressed even the humans. They're good at this, Hayes observed as they watched a new railgun being installed on a defense platform. They've had thousands of years to perfect manufacturing, Jake replied. They just never thought to apply it to real warfare. On the second day, the Confederation fleet arrived to reinforce the system. Admiral Kextos, a tall being with purple skin and silver eyes, met with the human advisors in the command center. I have reviewed the reports, the Admiral said. But I find it difficult to believe that primitive kinetic weapons can defeat Vorthak armor. Jake gestured to the crystal fragments that Dr. Zathara had saved as evidence. Admiral, those used to be 12 Vorthak warriors. Would you like to see the video? They watched the footage of the battle in the command center. Admiral Kextos stared in amazement as the invincible Vorthak were reduced to broken glass in seconds. Extraordinary, the Admiral whispered. In 300 years we have never seen anything like this. Admiral, Captain Rodriguez said, we need your fleet to work with us. The Vorthak are bringing 50,000 warriors. We can't fight them with just 24. Humans, what do you need? Jake activated the tactical display. Your ships need to be refitted with kinetic weapons. We also need to change your battle tactics completely. Our tactics have been refined over millennia, Admiral Kextos protested. Your tactics have gotten 2 trillion people killed, Hayes pointed out bluntly. Maybe it's time to try something new. The retraining began immediately. Human soldiers worked with alien crews to teach them concepts that were completely foreign to galactic warfare. Cover and concealment, suppressing fire, flanking maneuvers. The aliens struggled with ideas that seemed barbaric to their civilized minds. You want us to hide behind asteroids? Asked Captain Vexler, a ship commander. It's called using cover, Turner explained patiently. You make it harder for the enemy to hit you, but that's dishonorable. Warriors should face each other openly. Captain, honor won't help you if you're dead. The Vorthak reinforcements arrived. On the third day, 300 massive ships appeared at the edge of the system, their crystalline hulls glowing with internal energy. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their overwhelming power. This is War Commander Thexanai of the Vorthak Empire, came the transmission. You will surrender immediately or face complete annihilation. We have brought sufficient force to destroy every living thing in this system. Admiral Kextos looked at Jake Morrison. Sergeant, they outnumber us 7-1. Perhaps we should consider negotiating. Jake studied the enemy formation on the tactical display. The Vorthak ships were arranged in their traditional perfect lines, presenting maximum targets with no attempt at evasive positioning. Admiral, Jake said quietly, they're flying in parade formation. They have no idea what they're flying into. Captain Rodriguez checked the status of the new weapon systems. All kinetic platforms are online, railguns charged and ready. Lieutenant Commander Hayes reviewed the targeting data. Firing solutions? Locked for all enemy vessels. Sergeant Turner grinned as he watched the Vorthak fleet approach. Sir, they're not even trying to protect themselves. They think they're invincible. Jake activated the fleet communication system. All ships, all platforms, this is Morrison. You are cleared to engage. Show them what happens when you bring a crystal to a gunfight. The first tungsten rods streaked across space at 10% of light speed. They struck the Lid Vortex ships. Before the crystalline beings even knew they were under attack, the kinetic impact shattered the massive vessels like glass ornaments, sending debris spinning through space. The Vortex fleet tried to respond, but their energy weapons were useless. Against targets moving so fast and hitting so hard, more railgun rounds struck home and more ships exploded into glittering fragments. Impossible! War Commander Thexanai screamed over the communication channel. You cannot hurt us. We are eternal. We are invincible. Not anymore. Jake Morrison replied calmly as another dozen Vortex ships shattered under the kinetic bombardment. The tide of galactic war had finally turned. The space battle around Tau Centauri lasted 18 hours. When it was over, 300 Vortex ships had been reduced to floating debris fields. The crystalline hulls that had seemed invincible for centuries were now just glittering clouds of broken glass drifting through the void. Jake Morrison stood in the command center watching the cleanup operations. Confederation ships moved carefully through the wreckage, checking for survivors and collecting intelligence. There were no Vortex survivors. The kinetic weapons had been too devastating, too complete. Final casualty report, Admiral Kextos announced. We lost 11 ships and approximately 3,000 crew members. The enemy lost everything. Dr. Zethara looked up from her analysis station. Sergeant Morrison, we're receiving communications from across the galaxy. Word of our victory is spreading. Dozens of worlds are asking for help. Captain Rodriguez joined them at the main display. Sir, we have a bigger problem. Intelligence? Reports that the Vorthak are pulling back their fleets from active conquest zones. They're consolidating their forces. How many ships are we talking about? Jake asked. Dr. Vextai checked his readings. Long-range sensors detect massive fleet movements. At least 10,000 ships converging on the Vorthak core worlds. Lieutenant Commander Hayes whistled low. They're bringing everything they have. Makes sense, Sergeant Turner said. We just proved they're not invincible. They can't let word spread or their entire empire will collapse. Jake studied the strategic display showing Vorthak territory. Doctor, what do we know about their core? Worlds? Dr. Zethara activated several screens showing intelligence reports. The Vorthak Empire is centered around 7 star systems in the galactic core. Each system contains billions of warriors and massive industrial complexes. They've been building their strength there for 300 years. Any idea what they're planning? Unknown. But every intelligence report agrees. They're gathering the largest fleet in galactic history. Admiral Kextos approached with a concerned expression. Sergeant Morrison, the Confederation Council has been in emergency session. They want to negotiate with the Vorthak before this escalates further. Jake turned to face the Admiral. Negotiate what? A peace treaty, territorial boundaries. Perhaps we can divide the galaxy and avoid further conflict. Captain Rodriguez laughed, but there was no humor in it. Admiral, you still don't understand. The Vorthak aren't interested in sharing the galaxy. They want to own it. But surely after such heavy losses, they'll be willing to discuss terms, Dr. Zethara said hopefully. Hayes shook his head. Doctor, predators don't negotiate when they're wounded. They get more dangerous. Over the following weeks, reports came in from across the galaxy. The Vorthak had indeed pulled back from their conquest zones, but they were systematically destroying everything they abandoned. Entire worlds were left as lifeless rocks. Billions of people died as the Crystalline Empire consolidated its territory. They're implementing a scorched earth policy, Jake observed as he read the latest reports. If they can't hold it, they'll make sure nobody else can use it. Dr. Vextai looked confused. Scorched earth? Old human military strategy, Turner explained. Destroy everything useful when you retreat. Deny resources to the enemy. But those were inhabited worlds, Dr. Zethara protested. Billions of innocent people. The Vorthak don't see them as people, Jake said quietly. They see them as resources. And they'd rather destroy resources than let us have them. The human soldiers had been working around the clock, training alien crews and designing new weapon systems. The success at Tau Centauri had convinced the Confederation to fully adopt human military doctrine, but the learning process was difficult. The alien crews are improving, Captain Rodriguez reported during a briefing, but they still struggle with aggressive tactics. Their instinct is to avoid conflict, not seek it. How are the new ship designs coming? Jake asked. Hayes consulted. His notes. We've got 50 vessels retrofitted with kinetic weapons. The aliens are fast learners when it comes to engineering. They just need more time to understand combat applications. Time we might not have, Turner pointed out. Intelligence suggests the Vorthak will be ready to move in a few weeks. Jake walked to the star map showing the current strategic situation. The Vorthak controlled roughly half the galaxy, but they had pulled back to defensive positions around their core worlds. The Confederation held the other half, but their forces were scattered and still learning to fight. We need to take the initiative, Jake decided. We can't let them choose when and where to fight. Admiral Kextos looked troubled. Sergeant, you're suggesting we invade Vorthak territory. That's never been attempted. That's because nobody ever had weapons that could hurt them, Hayes replied. Now we do, double quotes. Dr. Zathara pulled up detailed scans of the Vorthak core region. The approaches are heavily fortified. Automated defense stations, minefields, patrol fleets. It would be extremely dangerous. Jake studied the defensive positions. Doctor, show me their supply lines. How do they move resources between systems? The display changed to show trade routes and supply convoys. They use heavily escorted cargo fleets. Multiple ships carrying materials and personnel. And if those convoys were disrupted? Dr. Vextai computed the logistics. Their manufacturing would slow significantly. Food distribution would be affected. They might even face shortages. Turner grinned. Sounds like a job for special operations? What do you mean? Dr. Zathara asked. Small teams, Jake explained. Fast ships with kinetic weapons. Hit the supply convoys and disappear before reinforcements. Arrive, Captain Rodriguez nodded. Classic guerrilla warfare. Attack their logistics, not their main forces? Admiral Kextos looked uncertain. This seems dishonorable, attacking supply ships instead of facing their battle fleets directly. Jake turned to face the Admiral. Sir, with respect, honor doesn't win wars, strategy wins wars. The Vorthak have been using overwhelming force for 3 centuries. Time to show them what happens when someone fights smarter instead of harder. The raids began 2 weeks later. Human-led strike teams and fast attack ships began hitting Vorthak supply convoys throughout their territory. The crystalline beings were completely unprepared for this type of warfare. Convoy 47 destroyed, reported Lieutenant Nash over the communication. System, no survivors. Proceeding to next target. Convoy 23 eliminated, came another report. Enemy reinforcements arrived too late. The Vorthak tried to respond by increasing convoy escorts, but the human teams adapted quickly. They used hit-and-run tactics, striking from unexpected angles, and disappearing before the enemy could react. Their supply network is collapsing, Dr. Zathara reported after 2 weeks of raids. Intelligence indicates food shortages on several Vorthak worlds. Good, Jake said. Hungry enemies make mistakes. The mistake came sooner than expected. Frustrated by the constant raids and facing pressure from their own population, the Vorthak abandoned their defensive strategy. They launched a massive counterattack, with 5,000 ships aiming to crush the Confederation forces in one decisive battle. They're coming right at us, Admiral Kextos reported. All available forces heading directly for our main fleet concentration at Proxima. Jake looked at the tactical display showing the approaching Vorthak armada. They're angry. Good, angry enemies don't think clearly. Captain Rodriguez checked the readiness reports. Our fleet is ready. 200 ships with kinetic weapons, plus orbital defense platforms. Still outnumbered 25-1, Hayes observed. Turner shrugged. We faced worse odds. When? Dr. Vextai asked. Every major battle in human history, Jake replied. The thing about humans is we specialize in winning when we shouldn't. The Vorthak fleet approached Proxima in their traditional formation. Perfect lines, maximum intimidation, overwhelming force. But this time, the humans were ready for them. All units, Jake announced over the fleet communication system. You know what to do? Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't give them time to think. The kinetic weapons opened fire at maximum range. Tungsten rods streaked across space at incredible speeds, striking the Vorthak formation before they could respond. Ships shattered and exploded, but the enemy kept coming. They're not retreating, Admiral Kextos said with surprise. They can't, Jake realized. Their entire empire is watching. If they retreat again, their authority collapses completely. The battle became a grinding slugfest as the Vorthak pressed forward despite massive losses. Their energy weapons were still dangerous, and several Confederation ships were destroyed. But the kinetic weapons were taking a terrible toll on the crystalline fleet. Enemy formation breaking up, Hayes reported. They're losing coherence. Press the attack, Jake ordered. Don't let them regroup. The Confederation fleet advanced, using tactics the aliens had learned from their human teachers. They concentrated fire on isolated enemy groups, used asteroids for cover, and coordinated their attacks with ruthless efficiency. When the smoke cleared, less than 500 Vorthak ships remained. They limped back toward their core worlds, leaving behind the wreckage of their mighty armada. Impossible, Dr. Zathara whispered. We've just destroyed the largest Vorthak fleet in history. Jake nodded grimly. And now they know they can't win a conventional war against us? The Vorthak core mind spoke for the first time in 300 years. Its voice came through every communication system in the galaxy, reaching billions of beings across thousands of worlds. The sound was like crystal bells ringing in a tomb. We are the eternal crystals. We have ruled this galaxy for 3 centuries. We have conquered 1,000 worlds and destroyed all who opposed us. But now we face an enemy that should not exist. Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the Confederation flagship, listening to the transmission with growing unease. Around him, alien officers worked at their stations while human advisors monitored tactical displays. These beings from the Deathworld have brought chaos to our perfect order. They have taught our subjects to resist. They have shown them that we can be broken. This cannot be allowed to continue. Captain Rodriguez looked at the strategic display. Sir, we're detecting massive energy buildups in all 7 Vorthak core systems. Something big is happening. The core mind's voice continued, growing louder and more terrible. We have decided that if we cannot rule this galaxy in perfection, then it will be cleansed of all impurity. We will activate the Dark Protocol. Every world that has been touched by the Deathworld plague will be purified. Dr. Zathara's face went pale. Dark Protocol? What is that? Lieutenant Commander Hayes checked his intelligence files. Unknown. We have no records of any Vorthak weapon system by that name. The purification will begin in 72 hours, the core mind announced. All impure worlds will be reduced to base elements. The galaxy will be reborn in crystal perfection. This is our final gift to the cosmos. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in stunned silence. Admiral Kextos turned to Jake with fear in his eyes. Sergeant Morrison, what do you think they mean by purification? Jake had a cold feeling in his stomach. I think they mean they're going to destroy every world that's rebelled against them. Every world we've helped. Every world that knows they can be beaten. Double quotes. Dr. Vextai checked his calculations. That would be over 400 worlds. Trillions of people. Can they do that? Sergeant Turner asked. Dr. Zathara worked frantically at her computer. I'm accessing all available data on Vorthak technology. If they have some kind of super weapon, there should be traces in their energy. Signatures? The answer came 6 hours later from deep space sensors monitoring the Vorthak core worlds. Dr. Zathara's readings made Her hands shake as she reported to the command staff. They're building something enormous in each core system. The energy requirements are beyond anything we've ever seen. Each device appears to be the size of a small moon. Jake studied the sensor data. What kind of weapon needs that much power? Unknown. But the energy patterns suggest some kind of quantum destabilization field. If activated, it could theoretically break down the atomic structure of matter across vast distances. Captain Rodriguez felt her blood run cold. You mean they could destroy entire star systems? Possibly. The range appears to be several hundred light years per device. Combined, the 7 weapons could cover most of the galaxy. Hayes looked at the tactical display showing the positions of the core worlds. How long until they're ready? At current construction rates, 68 hours. Jake was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Doctor, is there any way to stop these weapons? Dr. Zethara ran through various scenarios on her computer. The devices appear to be controlled by the core mind itself. If we could disrupt that control... Where? Is the core mind located? Unknown. It's some kind of distributed intelligence spread across all 7 core systems. Destroying one node wouldn't stop it. Admiral Kextos studied the star charts. Even if we knew where to strike, we couldn't reach the core worlds in time. They're too heavily defended, and it's a journey of several weeks at maximum speed. Turner frowned. What about their teleportation technology? The same thing they used to beam warriors into command centers? Dr. Zethara shook her head. Teleportation requires enormous amounts of energy. We couldn't transport enough ships to make a difference. What about people? Jake asked quietly. I don't understand. Could you teleport a small team directly into the core systems? Say, 24 people? Dr. Vextai looked at the calculations. Theoretically possible, but it would be a one-way trip. The energy requirements would drain our entire power grid. Captain Rodriguez understood immediately. A suicide mission. Jake nodded. Someone has to get close enough to those weapons to destroy them, or find the core mind and shut it down manually. It's impossible, Admiral Kextos protested. The core worlds are the most heavily defended systems in the galaxy. Millions of warriors guard them. Hayes checked his weapon and smiled grimly. Admiral, 24 humans just spent 6 months teaching your people that impossible is a relative term. The planning began immediately. The humans worked with alien scientists to modify the teleportation technology for a precision strike. The target would be the central core world, where the largest weapon was being constructed. The device is powered by the planet's core, Dr. Zethara explained. If you could overload the power systems, the resulting explosion might destroy the weapon and send a feedback pulse to the other 6 systems. Might? Turner asked. The calculations are complex? There's a 60% chance of success, Jake looked at his team. These men and women had followed him through impossible battles and faced unbeatable enemies. Now he was asking them to die to save people they had never met. Anyone who wants out can stay here, he said quietly. No shame in it, this isn't your war. Staff Sergeant Lisa Kelly stepped forward. Sir, with respect, it became our war the moment we were summoned here. These people need us. One by one, the other humans nodded agreement. They had come from a world where everything tried to kill them, but they had also come from a world where people protected each other. The teleportation began at exactly 67 hours after the core mind's announcement. Jake Morrison and his team materialized in the heart of the most defended system in the galaxy. Inside a crystalline structure the size of a city, alarms immediately began ringing throughout the complex. Thousands of Vorthic warriors converged on their position. The humans moved with deadly efficiency, fighting their way deeper into the structure toward the central power core. Rodriguez, Hayes, hold this corridor, Jake shouted over the sound of gunfire. Turner, Kelly, plant the charges on the main power conduits. The battle was savage and brief. Human weapons shattered crystalline bodies while Vorthic energy beams found their targets. One by one, the humans fell, but they kept moving forward. Jake reached the central chamber as his ammunition ran out. The core mine's primary node stood. Before him, a massive crystal formation pulsing with internal light. He could feel its alien intelligence pressing against his mind. "You cannot stop us, Deathworlder," the core mind spoke directly into his thoughts. "We are eternal, we will rebuild. The galaxy will be purified." Jake pulled the pin from his last grenade. "Maybe, but not today." The explosion tore through the power core, sending feedback cascades through the quantum network. Across 7-star systems, the superweapons overloaded and destroyed themselves. The core mind's scream of rage and pain echoed across the galaxy as its distributed intelligence collapsed. The Vorthak Empire died with its core mind. Without central coordination, their remaining fleets surrendered or fled into the unknown regions of space. The 300-year reign of terror was over. Dr. Zathara stood in the rebuilt command center on Kepler Prime, reading the final casualty reports. 24 humans had given their lives to save trillions of others. The memorial wall bore their names in letters of gold. "They weren't supposed to be heroes," she said quietly to Dr. Vextai. "We summoned them by accident. They were just soldiers from a death world." Dr. Vextai looked at the memorial. "Perhaps that's exactly what heroes are. People who do what needs to be done, regardless of the cost." Above them, ships from 100 worlds traveled freely through space that had been ruled by fear for centuries. Children played on worlds that had known only war. The galaxy was rebuilding, learning, growing. And somewhere in the depths of space, automated beacons sent out a message to any who might listen. "Beware. This galaxy is protected by Deathworlders. They never give up. They never surrender. And, they never leave anyone behind." The universe had learned that sometimes the most dangerous beings are those who fight not for conquest, but for the simple idea that everyone deserves to be free.